The heavy wooden doors of the courtroom groaned as they opened. Every sound echoed. Footsteps. Shuffling papers. The quiet cough of a clerk. People turned their heads, waiting for the next scene to unfold. Then she appeared. A tall black woman, her back straight, her eyes steady. She wore a simple gray suit, but something about her presence made the air shift. 2 guards walked close behind, their hands brushing the cuffs that locked around her wrists. The chains clinked with every step. She didn't bow her head. She didn't break. She carried herself like a soldier still on the battlefield. The whispers began. That's her. The sniper. They say she was one of the best. Navy SEAL. What did she do? The judge raised his gavel for silence, but the murmurs lingered. People couldn't take their eyes off her. The woman's face was unreadable, carved from stone, but her dark eyes burned with a fire no one could ignore. She stopped in the middle of the courtroom. The bailiff ordered, "Defendant, step forward." Her chains rattled as she obeyed. Each step felt like a drumbeat, slow, steady, unshaken. Some swore they felt the floor tremble under her boots, even though she wore none. The prosecutor smirked. A young man with sharp glasses and sharper words. He looked her up and down like a prize to be taken. "Your Honor," he said, "this woman is no hero. She's dangerous. She broke the very laws she swore to defend." Gasps ran through the gallery. Reporters scribbled faster. Cameras clicked. But she didn't flinch. Her jaw stayed firm. Her eyes never left the front. The judge leaned forward. "State your name for the record." Her voice, when it came, was low but clear. Every syllable landed like a strike. Lieutenant Commander Naomi Cross. United States Navy SEAL. Retired. The room froze. Even those who didn't understand military ranks felt the weight of those words. Retired SEAL. Sniper. Commander. Someone whispered, "She saved lives overseas. Why is she here?" The prosecutor's voice cut in. "Yes, retired but not with honor." He let the words hang. Murmurs grew louder, feeding on each other like wildfire. Naomi's lips pressed tight. For a second, her hands trembled against the cuffs. But she stilled them. She refused to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her break. The judge tapped the gavel again. Order. Naomi slowly lifted her head. Her eyes swept across the room. She saw the reporters, hungry for scandal. The families in the back, staring as if weighing her soul. The clerk, nervous and pale. She saw them all. And for a heartbeat, silence wrapped the courtroom. Then, from outside the doors, came a sound. Heavy boots on marble. Slow, deliberate. The kind of footsteps that made walls listen. The bailiff turned. The guards stiffened. Even the prosecutor's smirk faltered. The footsteps drew closer, louder, echoing like thunder in a storm. Naomi's breath caught in her chest. She knew that rhythm, that weight. Those boots did not belong to a lawyer, nor a guard. They belonged to someone who had walked battlefields she had walked. Someone who carried more than authority. Her heart pounded. Not from fear, but from something else. Recognition. The doors creaked again. Every head in the courtroom turned. The judge's brow furrowed. "Who is entering my courtroom?" The bailiff swallowed. His voice cracked as he answered. "An Admiral, Your Honor." The gallery gasped. Reporters dropped their pens. The prosecutor blinked, stunned. And Naomi, for the first time since stepping inside, allowed herself a flicker of something that looked like hope. Or maybe dread. The Admiral walked in. His medals gleamed. His presence silenced the air itself. Every whisper died. Every cough ceased. Even the judge leaned back, unsure. Naomi's chains rattled as she shifted, her lips parting, but no words came. Her eyes locked on him. What was he doing here? The room held its breath. Why had an admiral come for her trial? Was he here to condemn her, or to reveal something that would change everything? The admiral's polished shoes struck the courtroom floor with slow, deliberate rhythm. Each step echoed like a warning. He didn't look left or right. His eyes were locked forward, sharp and unreadable. The bailiff's voice quivered as he announced again, louder this time. "Admiral on deck." Instinct rippled through the room. Veterans in the gallery straightened in their seats. Even civilians felt it, a strange pull to rise, to respect the weight of his presence. Naomi's eyes burned into him. Her lips barely moved as she whispered, "Admiral Hayes." The name fell like a stone in her chest. Memories surged, uninvited. Midnight missions. Radio static, cutting through gunfire. His voice steady in her earpiece. "Take the shot, Lieutenant." The crack of her rifle. The silence after. She had trusted him with her life. And now here he was, walking into the very room where her life was about to be judged. The prosecutor shifted uncomfortably, his confidence faltering. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Why is an admiral present at these proceedings?" The judge frowned, tapping his gavel but not speaking. He too seemed caught in the admiral's shadow. Admiral Hayes reached the front and stopped, his hands clasped neatly behind his back. His uniform gleamed, every ribbon in perfect order. His face was carved in stone, his expression unreadable. "Permission to address the court," he said. His voice was deep, commanding. It filled the room. The judge cleared his throat, his tone less firm than before. "State your purpose, Admiral Hayes. This is not a military tribunal." The admiral's gaze swept the room once, then landed on Naomi. She didn't look away. "My purpose," he said, pausing long enough to make the silence ache, "is her." Gasps broke out. Naomi's chains rattled as she shifted, her jaw tightening. The prosecutor stepped forward, his voice cracking with outrage. "This woman, this so-called sniper, stands accused of breaking the very laws she swore to protect. She doesn't deserve." Silence. The word wasn't shouted. It wasn't barked. It was spoken with such weight that the prosecutor froze mid-sentence, his lips still parted, but no sound coming out. The admiral's eyes narrowed. "You speak of her like you know her. You don't. She's more than the charges you've scribbled on a piece of paper." The gallery leaned forward. Every breath in the room seemed to wait. Naomi's pulse pounded in her ears. Hayes turned his head slightly, speaking now to the judge. "I was her commanding officer. I was there when she pulled brothers from fire. I was there when her shot saved 20 men pinned down on a rooftop. I was there when she stood in front of a convoy so civilians could pass unharmed." His words hit like hammer blows. Reporters scribbled furiously, pen scratching. A woman in the back wiped a tear. The judge shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Naomi's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, to deny or confirm, but the weight of the moment pressed her silent. The prosecutor stammered. That may all be true, Admiral, but she is not here for her past glories. She is here because she broke orders. She defied the chain of command. She acted like a human being?" Hayes snapped, his voice cutting sharp. He turned back to the room, sweeping his gaze across every face. "Tell me, what would you do? If the order is to stand down while innocents die? If the command is to close your eyes when you see a child caught in the crossfire? What then?" The silence was suffocating. No one answered. Naomi's chest heaved once. Her eyes flicked downward, then back to him. He had just said aloud what she had buried deep the very moment that had brought her here. The Admiral leaned closer to the bench. His voice dropped, heavy with gravity. "This trial isn't about law. It's about loyalty, and about whether we punish a soldier for refusing to kill when killing was the easy choice." The judge's knuckles whitened around the gavel. The prosecutor's face flushed red. And Naomi, her heart racing, asked herself the question she had avoided since the day of her arrest. Had she done the right thing, or had she doomed herself with that one choice? Would the Admiral's defense be enough to shield her, or would his words only ignite the fire against her? And what secret was Naomi still holding back? The judge sat back, his gavel frozen midair, as if unsure whether to strike or to listen. The entire courtroom felt like it was teetering on the edge of something larger than a trial. Naomi's chest tightened. She could feel every eye pressing on her, weighing her down. The Admiral's words had cracked the surface, but beneath it lay the truth no one in this room knew. She looked down at her hands. The cold bite of the cuffs dug into her skin. She flexed her fingers once, silently. A memory rose unbidden, the child's face. Wide eyes, dust-covered cheeks, a trembling hand reaching toward her, and her finger, steady on the trigger, lowering instead of firing. The prosecutor recovered first. His voice shook, but he forced it into sharpness. Your Honor, this spectacle is irrelevant. The defendant disobeyed a direct order. She refused to carry out her mission. That choice cost lives. Heroes died because of her. Naomi's head snapped up, fire in her eyes. That's a lie. The words shot out before she could stop them. The gallery gasped. Reporters' pens tore across paper. The judge raised a hand. Commander Cross, you will speak only when. But the Admiral's voice cut through. Let her speak. A heavy silence fell. Naomi's heart hammered against her ribs. She felt the weight of the moment. Her voice, though low, carried clear across the courtroom. I had the target in my sights, she said. I could have taken the shot, but there were civilians, children, behind him. I saw their faces. If I fired, they died with him. And if I held my fire, the target might escape. I made my choice. Her words hung in the air like smoke. The prosecutor sneered. And because of that choice, the target detonated a bomb that killed 3 Marines. Do you deny it? Naomi's throat closed. She felt the weight of those names pressing on her soul. She had memorized them. She whispered them in the dark when no one else could hear. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. The Admiral stepped forward. Enough. You want to talk about loss? I was there. I collected those men myself. Don't you dare hang their deaths solely on her shoulders. That day was chaos, and the command failed long before her finger ever touched the trigger. But Naomi barely heard him. Her mind spun with the memory, the deafening blast, the heat, the screams that carved scars into her bones. She closed her eyes. For a moment, the courtroom faded into smoke and fire. When she opened them again, she found the prosecutor staring at her, his lips curling. Tell the court what else you did, Commander. Tell them the part you've kept hidden. Her stomach dropped. A cold shiver crept up her spine. He knew. The judge leaned forward. What is he referring to? Naomi's lips parted, but no sound came. Her voice had fled, trapped beneath the weight of the secret she had carried since that day. The prosecutor slammed his fist on the table. She didn't just refuse the order. She disobeyed again after the blast. She took the wounded child into her arms and carried her straight out of the combat zone. Abandoning her post, ignoring extraction protocol, she chose a stranger's life over her brother's in arms. The gallery erupted in shouts. Is that true? She saved a child? Or did she betray her unit? Naomi's breathing quickened. Her chest rose and fell like a drumbeat. She remembered the tiny body against hers, the girl's weak pulse fluttering beneath her fingers. She had run through bullets, smoke, and fire, clutching her like the only thing that mattered. Her voice trembled, but she spoke. Yes, I carried her. I carried her because no one else would. Because she deserved to live. The room shook with noise, gasps, arguments, murmurs. Reporters wrote like mad. The judge slammed his gavel again and again, but it barely contained the storm. The Admiral stood taller. She saved a child. And for that, you call her a criminal. But Naomi wasn't looking at him anymore. She wasn't looking at the prosecutor or the judge. Her eyes drifted to the gallery, where a young woman stood at the very back. Her hands trembled. Her face was pale, but her eyes... Naomi froze. Recognition struck her like lightning. The child, grown now, but unmistakable. Her knees weakened. Her breath caught in her throat. What was she doing here? The courtroom blurred, but Naomi could see her clearly. The young woman's lips quivered, and though her voice barely carried, Naomi heard it. You saved me. Why had the rescued girl come forward now, in this trial, after all these years? And what truth would she reveal that could shatter everything? The room fell silent. Every head turned toward the young woman at the back. Her voice had cut through the chaos like a blade. You saved me. Naomi's heart pounded so hard it shook her chest. Her throat tightened. She blinked once, twice, almost afraid the vision would vanish. But the girl didn't fade. She stood trembling, her hands clutched together, her eyes locked on Naomi with a mixture of fear and gratitude. The judge leaned forward, frowning. "Who are you?" The young woman's voice wavered, but she forced the words out. "My name is Lila. I was 8 years old. The day of the explosion. She carried me out of the rubble." Gasps rippled across the gallery. Reporters dropped pens, staring wide-eyed. The prosecutor froze, his mouth half open, as if the air had been stolen from his lungs. Naomi's knees almost gave out. She tightened her fists to keep herself standing. The memory crashed over her in vivid detail, her arms burning from carrying the child, her lungs choking on smoke, her boots pounding against broken stone, and those terrified eyes staring up at her. Now those same eyes were older, but just as haunting. The prosecutor snapped back to life, his voice sharp with desperation. "Objection. This is irrelevant testimony. Civilian witnesses have no bearing on a military defection case." But the judge's gavel slammed. "Overruled. Continue." The Admiral turned, his gaze locked on Lila. "Speak, girl. The truth deserves its place here." Lila swallowed, stepping forward. Her voice steadied with each word. "When the bomb went off, everything went black. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to die. Then I felt her arms around me. She wouldn't let me go. She ran through the fire for me. I remember her voice, whispering, 'Hold on, I've got you.'" Naomi's eyes stung. She lowered her head for a moment, her breath shaking. She had tried to bury that day, but the girl had carried it with her too. The gallery erupted again, whispers hissing like snakes. She saved a child. She abandoned orders. Is she a hero or a traitor? The judge slammed his gavel once more, but the questions lingered in the air. Lila turned her gaze to the prosecutor, her voice fierce now. "You call her a criminal, but I am standing here because of her. My family, my entire village, would have been gone if she hadn't risked her life. Tell me, what law condemns someone for saving a child?" The prosecutor's jaw clenched. His words faltered. She abandoned her duty. Soldiers died. "And yet I lived," Lila cut in, her eyes blazing, "because she chose mercy over blind obedience." Naomi's chest swelled with both pride and pain. She wanted to reach out, to say something, but her throat refused to obey. The Admiral stepped forward, his voice like thunder. "Enough. You've heard it from the girl herself. This trial is no longer about guilt or innocence. It's about what we choose to honor. Do we honor compassion, or do we bury it under paperwork and chains?" The judge rubbed his temples, his face drawn. "This court will not be swayed by sentiment. The law must guide us." Naomi finally found her voice, low but steady. "Then tell me, Your Honor, what good is the law if it punishes someone for choosing life?" Her words landed heavy, and the silence that followed was unbearable. The judge looked away, his gavel trembling in his hand. And then, from the gallery, another voice rose. A man stood older, his face lined, his suit worn. His voice cracked as he spoke. "She saved my daughter. If she is guilty, then so is every soldier who ever chose humanity over orders." It was Lila's father. His words ignited the gallery. Murmurs turned into shouts. Some rose to their feet. "Let her go. She's a hero." Others shouted back. "She broke orders." The law is the law. The courtroom teetered on chaos. Guards rushed to steady the room, but the fire had already been lit. Naomi stood frozen, her eyes on Lila. For years, she had carried the guilt of that day. Now, in this room, the truth had finally walked in on trembling legs. But truth was not always enough to set someone free. Would the judge side with the law, or with the voices demanding justice for compassion? And what final choice would Naomi face before the gavel fell? The gavel struck 3 times, each crack echoing like thunder in a storm. "Order! Order in this court," the judge roared. But the fire had already caught. The gallery was alive with voices. Some shouted for mercy, others for punishment. Guards moved through the aisles, their faces tense. but even they looked uncertain which side they stood on. Naomi stood in the center, chains still heavy on her wrists, her chest rising and falling. She didn't look at the judge. She didn't look at the prosecutor. Her eyes never left Lila, the girl she had saved, now standing tall at the back with tears in her eyes. The prosecutor slammed his hand against the table. His voice cut sharp through the chaos. "Your Honor, we cannot allow sentiment to erase discipline. The law is clear. She disobeyed orders. She endangered her unit. No testimony, no matter how emotional, changes that fact." Naomi flinched. His words were true. The law was clear. The Admiral stepped forward, his boots striking hard against the floor. His voice boomed like a command on the battlefield. The law may be clear, but justice is not always written in ink. Sometimes it's written in blood, in sacrifice, in the lives we choose to save. He turned to the gallery, his hand outstretched toward Naomi. This woman stood where most men would crumble. She faced the impossible choice and chose compassion. Is that a crime? Or is that the very courage we claim to honor in our soldiers? The crowd erupted again, voices clashing, the air thick with tension. The judge's face was pale. His hand trembled as he gripped the gavel. His voice broke slightly as he spoke. "This court does not rule on sentiment." And yet, he paused, his eyes dropping to the papers in front of him. And yet the testimony cannot be ignored. The prosecutor jumped up. "Your Honor, if you let her walk, you undermine every order, every command structure. You put every soldier's loyalty at risk. She must face punishment." Naomi's chest tightened. She closed her eyes. Images of the fallen Marines flickered in her mind. Their names echoed like prayers she couldn't stop saying. She opened her mouth, her voice low but steady. "If punishment is what honors them, then I will accept it. But I will never apologize for saving her life." Gasps swept the room. The Admiral's jaw clenched, his eyes shining with pride. Lila's hands trembled at her sides. The judge leaned back, his gaze heavy. "You admit your actions?" Naomi lifted her chin. "I do. Every choice. Every step I took with her in my arms. I would do it again." The silence that followed was suffocating. Finally, the judge raised his gavel. His voice came down like steel. "This court finds Lieutenant Commander Naomi Cross guilty of insubordination." The gallery erupted, half in outrage, half in triumph. Naomi's stomach dropped, but she stood tall, her shoulders squared. She had expected nothing less. The judge's voice cut through the noise again. However, in recognition of her service record and the extraordinary testimony presented today, this court also recommends immediate clemency. The gavel struck one last time. The room exploded with noise, gasps, cries, shouts. The guards moved to remove her cuffs. The chains fell away with a metallic clink that echoed like freedom. Naomi's knees trembled, but she didn't fall. The Admiral placed a steady hand on her shoulder, his voice low. "You stood your ground, Commander. That's all that ever mattered." She turned, her eyes locking on Lila. The girl rushed forward, tears streaming, and for the first time in years, Naomi felt warmth spread through the cold that had lived inside her. Lila's arms wrapped around her, fragile yet unyielding. "You saved me," Lila whispered. "Now it's my turn to stand for you." Naomi closed her eyes, her hand pressing lightly against the girl's back. She had carried guilt like a shadow for years, but in this moment, a sliver of light broke through. The chains were gone, not just from her wrists, from her heart. The courtroom buzzed with chaos, but Naomi didn't hear it. She heard only the quiet beat of her own heart and the voice inside her asking the question she could never escape. Had she done the right thing? Or had she simply done the only thing a human being could? She didn't know if history would call her guilty or a hero. But as she looked into the eyes of the life she had saved, she knew this. Some choices are worth every consequence. If you were in Naomi's place, would you obey the order or save a child?